There was a water source found beneath Mount Suribachi in the spring of 1945. It does not appear on any official map of the island. No engineering survey conducted by the Navy Seabees recorded it. No inventory of water resources compiled by the garrison command after the battle listed it. Marines working in the tunnel sections beneath the mountain found it during routine clearance operations, sometime in the weeks after the fighting in the south had ended and the area was considered secured. Water was a serious problem on Iwo Jima throughout the occupation period. The island has no rivers, no lakes, no surface water of any kind. The soil is volcanic ash, and the rock beneath it does not retain rainfall in any usable way. Desalination equipment brought from other islands handled the main supply, but it was never enough for the size of the garrison, and rationing was a feature of daily life on the island for months after the battle ended. When the work party found what appeared to be a natural water source inside the tunnel system, the discovery was treated as useful. In that environment, it was. The source was located in the upper sections of the tunnel network, accessible through a passage that engineering teams had been clearing as part of the ongoing survey of the underground complex. Water had percolated through the porous volcanic rock and collected in a natural depression in the stone floor. The volume was not large, but it was steady, and on an island where water was rationed, a steady source mattered. A collection detail was assigned. The runs began. The first request for reassignment from that detail came within a few weeks. The men who asked to be moved did not initially explain themselves clearly. The early requests cited the usual difficulties of working in the tunnel environment. The heat was real. In the accessible sections beneath Suribachi in the spring and summer of 1945, temperatures regularly exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The sulfur content of the air required men to limit their time underground. Requests for reassignment from tunnel work were not uncommon, and they were sometimes approved. None of that was unusual. What became unusual was the consistency. Marines from different units, men who had not served together and had no particular reason to share complaints, were coming off the water detail and asking to be moved. The requests followed the same pattern across personnel who had no connection to each other. Supervisors who noticed the pattern began asking more specific questions, and the answers they received had certain elements in common. The men described a change in temperature at a specific point in the passage, approaching the water source. Not a gradual cooling of the kind that sometimes occurs deeper underground, but an abrupt change at a fixed location, a point in the passage where the air shifted from the oppressive heat of the rest of the tunnel to something noticeably colder. The volcanic geology of Iwo Jima generates heat. The tunnels are warm environments. A localized cold zone within that system was not something the men could account for, and it was not something any of the engineering assessments of that tunnel section had documented. The water level in the depression was reported to change between visits in ways the detail could not explain. The collection runs were scheduled at regular intervals, and the amount of water removed on each visit was recorded. The level when the detail returned did not consistently match the expected accumulation based on the observed rate at which water seeped into the depression. Sometimes the level was higher than it should have been, sometimes it was lower. The men responsible for tracking and reporting the water supply noted the inconsistency in their records but had no explanation to offer. Several Marines on separate occasions reported hearing sounds from within the depression when the water surface was undisturbed. The accounts described the sounds differently but consistently. Movement below the surface, something that did not correspond to simple seepage. The island has fissures running through the rock, and water moves through them from deeper sections, and some of what the men heard may have been that. The accounts suggest the men found the sounds inconsistent with ordinary geological water movement. They found them inconsistent enough to mention. One Marine, whose account was recorded in a unit diary that is held at the Marine Corps History Division in Quantico, Virginia, wrote that he had seen a reflection in the water surface that he could not explain. He did not say what he thought the reflection was. He noted only that it did not correspond to his own image, or to any feature of the tunnel above the water that should have produced a reflection. He did not elaborate. The entry moves on to other matters. The official reason given for abandoning the water source was contamination. A water quality assessment conducted during the summer of 1945 resulted in the source being removed from the approved supply list. The contamination concern cited in the available records relates to proximity to decomposing remains within the tunnel system. The tunnels beneath Suribachi contained the bodies of thousands of Japanese defenders who died in the fighting and and were never recovered. The concern about groundwater contamination in proximity to those remains was legitimate and consistent with standard practice. The decision to stop using the source was defensible on those grounds, but the reassignment request had come before any formal assessment was conducted. The men seeking transfer were not citing contamination, they were not citing health concerns, they were citing the conditions at the source itself, the temperature change, the water level, the sounds, the thing one man saw reflected in the water. The official explanation addresses a valid concern. It does not address the gap between the timing of the requests and the timing of the assessment, or between what the men reported and what the contamination finding would account for. That gap exists in the record. It is not large, and it does not prove anything, but it is there. The well was abandoned by late summer of 1945. The passage leading to it was sealed as part of the broader program to close off accessible tunnel sections that continued throughout the occupation period. Engineering crews carried out the sealing, it was documented, and the source passed out of the garrison records. The tunnel system beneath the mountain is still there. Recovery teams from the Japanese government have entered the accessible sections periodically since the 1950s, working to locate and return the remains of the estimated 11,000 Japanese service members who died in the tunnels and were never brought home. The deeper sections remain beyond reach. The heat, the gas, the structural uncertainty of volcanic rock that has been seismically active for 80 years make sustained entry into those areas impossible with current methods. The island itself continues to change. It rises and falls as pressure shifts in the volcanic system below it. The tunnels move with it. Water continues to percolate through the rock regardless of what happens on the surface or what decisions were made about it in 1945. Whether the source is still there, whether the passage remains sealed or has been affected by 8 decades of geological activity, is not something the available record establishes. What the record does establish is this. A group of Marines was assigned to collect water from a location beneath Mount Suribachi in the summer of 1945. They asked with a consistency that supervisors noticed and documented to be assigned somewhere else. The accounts they gave when pressed share specific details across men who had no connection to each other. The location was subsequently abandoned and sealed. The official reason given for abandoning it is plausible and may be sufficient. The accounts of the men who worked there suggest they would have abandoned it regardless. The volcanic geology of the island provides explanations for cold air pockets, for fluctuating water levels, for the acoustic effects of sound moving through fissured rock. These explanations exist and they apply to the conditions on Iwo Jima. Whether they account completely for what the men on the water detail reported is not something that can be resolved from the available record. The well is sealed beneath the southern end of the island. Whatever water collects there collects in the same darkness it always has, in the same rock, at the same depth below the surface where the battle was fought and where most of those who died in it remain.